love sticky floors, flat beer, and the lingering scent of puke from last St. Patty's Day? Great, well, you're in the right place. We're visiting Sketchy U's grimiest off-campus bar to watch the students make some massively bad decisions and amass a sea of regrets. Oh, and also to review Mass Spectrometry. As the name suggests, the primary goal of Mass Spec is to learn about the mass of a compound. It's often used to help uncover the identity of unknown compounds. But even if you know the identity of a sample, Mass Spec can be useful for gaining info on the isotopes in that sample or learning about how that compound fragments. Mass spectrometry is done inside a machine called a mass spectrometer. The quick and dirty version of what happens inside of one of these machines is that the compound in question is broken into a whole bunch of ions, which get accelerated into a detector so that their mass can be measured. But let's break this down in a bit more detail. The first thing that happens in a mass spectrometer is that a sample is vaporized and then shot with a beam of electrons. This breaks bonds in the compound, which causes cations of different sizes to form. You can remember this by the beam of light illuminating this guy's plus sign pattern shirt. Let's call him Brad. Now, most molecules in the sample will have bonds broken such that they split into two smaller fragments. But because there's a bit of randomness to how the electron beam hits, some molecules only have a single electron knocked off. These become a cation of the entire molecule, so they're called the parent ion or molecular ion. The parent ion becomes really important later on, so just hold that tidbit in your brain for now. Okay, once a sample is broken into a whole bunch of cations, voltage is used to accelerate the ions in a straight path through a vacuum. Sort of like that plus sign dart is accelerating straight out of that kid's hand. Though, his aim leaves something to be desired. Not to worry, though. It looks like this server is on his team, though that save might have been more for self-defense rather than boosting Brad's score. Either way, the fact that that magnet pattern dart tray deflected the positive dart towards the target should help you remember that cations in a mass spectrometer are accelerated through a magnetic field. Then, the force of the magnetic field deflects the charge ions towards a detector that measures their mass-to-charge ratio. We'll explain mass-to-charge ratio later, but for now, just know that the detector is where the cations get measured. It's their final stop. Now, the really important thing about this process is that how much cations are deflected by the magnetic field is determined by their mass. So, the smallest, lightest ions get deflected more. You know, just like it's easier to deflect a ping pong ball than a bowling ball. And when the magnetic field is weak, these little ions will be the ones to make it to the detector. The larger ions will not deflect enough to reach it. If you think of the dartboard as the detector, you should be able to remember the gist of this. See, Brad's little darts, representing small, light cations, reach the dartboard thanks to being deflected by that small magnet pattern tray, which represents a weaker magnetic field. But his larger darts didn't have enough arc, so they landed too high. And those are going to be a real pain to pry out of the drywall.